So what would it look
Mhm.
like if we created a ramp like that with our sons, where at the age of 13 years old, they get to learn what it means to be a man. And now they've technically got
Hmm.
5 years to fail safely. They have 5 years to scrape their
Mhm.
knees up. They have 5 years to actually live as a young man until they're actually put out into the world. And now they have the muscle memory, the skill set, the strength, the ability to persevere and be successful and hit the ground running as opposed to starting
Yeah.
from scratch, no template.
All right, what is up, my friends? Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview truly incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our own craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 13 to 20, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, I'm in the thick of it, and I'm working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I truly have an incredible opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role, the role of the fathers to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. I'm super pumped for you to hear from my friend Mondoe Davis today. He was on episode 442 where we talk about fatherhood, more focused on him, but he is a father to 11 children, believe it or not. He really has a beautiful life. I mean, when I FaceTime this guy, he looks like he's driving a school bus. It's just a big old van to fit his whole family in. But this guy is so intentional, so good with his words, so present and aware. And what we talk about on this episode is both of us have 16-year-old sons, and we are helping them transition from being a boy to being a man because we know that it is our responsibility to prepare them to one day lead a home the way that we're leading a home. And that can feel very scary. It can feel like an enormous responsibility, but it is one of the greatest opportunities that we have. And we talk about that. We share some things that are working for us, some little tricks and tips that we're currently implementing with our kids. And then we talk about the Rise Up Kings Genesis program and how that can help kick off and launch a rite-of-passage season of life for you and your son. So enjoy this conversation with me and my friend Mondoe. All right, my friends, I'm super pumped to be hanging out with my friend Mondoe. Mondoe, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Ned. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to being on the show and excited about what I was going to do, man.
Yes. Okay. So why are we here? We are here because our world, our families desperately need to prepare our sons for manhood, right? I think there's so many fathers out there who feel ill-equipped to help their sons transition from a boy to a man. And so you and I are going to be talking about the Rise Up Kings Genesis program, which is really this 2-day event, this launching pad to really start a new conversation between a father and a son to prepare their sons for manhood. You are the boots on the ground coach for the 2-day event. I am the coach on the back end for the follow up 6 months where I'm meeting with the young kings. Right, we're trying to change this. Right, not the boys, these young men. From meeting with them every 2 weeks and then meeting with the fathers every 2 weeks for 6 months, just to make sure that what we're doing is locking in. So, from your perspective, right, as you stepped into this new program that Rise Up Kings is offering, why offer a program for 13 to 17-year-old young men? Like, for you, where's that burning passion that this really matters?
From my perspective, this is critically important. And the reason why is because when you think about the amount of absent homes in regards to the father and the father being present, but not only being present, actually having a significant impact on the children, there
Mm-hmm.
is a there is a huge, massive void in our country right now. So much so that it's impacting the entire nation in ways that we haven't even been able to quantify yet. So if you think about just the fact that you're listening to this and the impact that your dad had on you, if your dad was in the home, I guarantee you, your dad did the best that he could with what he had.
Mm-hmm.
And begin to assess and look at the impact that your dad had on you and equipping you, not if you love your dad, if your dad loved you, not if your dad's a good person or not. We're talking about equipping you to become a man. I guarantee you there's a countless number of areas where you're like, dang, I wish I could have known about this. I wish I could have known about that. Like, how can I show chivalry and be a gentleman to a woman. Like, should I get the door? Should I not? Should I pay for the meal on the first date or not? What does it look like for me to understand and have a relationship with Christ? How do I study the Bible? How do I understand
Mm,
how to be a man's man and walk in faith? How do I show up when it comes to my fitness and taking care of my body? And is my dad demonstrating those habits to me? Like, how do I handle
mm.
finances? Like, there are so many areas that need to be covered from a 0 to 18 time frame. And that time goes by like this.
Yeah.
But if you're
Yeah.
in that space and you're listening to this, that's what we've done with this rite of passage. It's a 2-day experience that equips you and not tries to replace you as a father. That's not our goal.
Yeah.
Our goal
Yeah.
is to position ourselves in such a way to support you. And it's something that you will come through with your son. So we teach you things from, how to protect yourself, how to protect your family, how to handle finance, how to see yourself as a man of God and walk in a relationship with Christ, how to treat women, how to treat your family, how to be respectful, how to live with a vision statement for your life. So I think this is critically important. These are things, Ned, that I had to learn on my own. My dad
Yep.
is a great dad, and he didn't have a father in his life. His dad was gone when he was a teenager. So he went to the military, and the military, he said, became his father. And he took the
Hmm.
principles that he learned in the army and he applied those to our life and taught us. And I think he did a pretty good job teaching us a lot of things that he never had access to. Me and my brothers, I have two younger brothers that are 3 years younger than me, and they're twins. We all got full scholarships to college. We all played, Division I football, and he didn't have to pay a dime for our education. There's a lot of things that he taught us, man, discipline and you know, uh, the list goes on, but there's a void there for many, many
Hmm.
households. And there's
Hmm.
fathers. I don't know what to teach them. I don't know what's important. Like, how do I maximize the time? How do I schedule that? How do I be intentional as a father? And that's what we really want to equip men to do is have that
Yeah.
game plan in place.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I'd like to do, right? I would like to help break this down for guys a little bit. And so here's what you can expect right now, guys. Um, Mondo and I are each going to share a little bit of what Rise Up Kings has done for us in our own personal development, only so that you can see the value behind what's being built here. Then we're each going to share what we're working on with our oldest son right now. Like, what are we doing personally? Like, where's this passion? Because each of us have a son in this like age group. So what are we doing for them? And then dig a little bit more into like the understanding of the Genesis program. Like Mondo gave you a good teaser, and then we're each going to share a tool that you can implement right now. Which I didn't tell Mondo that, so he's going to be thinking about that in the back of his head. And and you guys, like, oh my gosh, I could cry. Like, even you hearing Mondo, I just sense that in the list of things he said that you listening are responsible to teach your son, you may have just shut down. You may have just gone, oh my gosh, that it's just too much. And so what we default to is letting moms raise our sons, letting coaches, youth pastors, social media, and their friends be the strongest influence in our kids' lives. But let me go back to what Mondo said. If I ask you the question, tell me about your relationship with your father, you automatically have a lot come up for you in a positive and a negative, potentially. And so I want you to realize that the influence that you look to your father, your son is looking to you for, and you have the opportunity to speak life into your kid. And I'll tell you this, I'm learning a lot of stuff right now that I'm learning with my son. So as I kind of share that conviction around this opportunity that we have as fathers, Mondo, before we each say what Ruck's done for us, is there anything else that comes up for you?
No, I just think that if you're listening to this and you did get overwhelmed with that, or you're feeling like a failure or shame is coming up for you, I want to invite you to let go of shame and pick up curiosity and see this
Hmm.
as this famous quote, this old Chinese proverb, when is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it's 20 years ago, but when is the second best time to plant a tree? Today. So if you feel a void there in your fatherhood, need some help in regards to your game around how you're raising the kids. We just want to let you know, man, no shame. Like, start
Hmm.
today. And it starts with one tool in the toolbox at a time. And then getting the skills, getting the associations that can help you move forward in the right direction. So no shame if your dad wasn't there or you don't know how to be a good dad. Man, I'm trying to tell you, there's a way for you to lock into this and learn the things you need to learn to show up and be present so that your kids remember this part of who you are from this day forward. And Up until now, you may not have been present. You may not have been teaching them, investing in them, being intentional, but that can all change in a matter of one moment with one decision.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think, guys, this is what I would love for you to walk away from, is your son needs you and God entrusted your son to you. You're the right man for the job. You're the only man for the job. Right. And so it's, yeah, big responsibility and an incredible opportunity. And so just like walk in the excitement of that. You get to be the one to do this. So real quick, what's Ruck done for me? And I want to be careful because it's like, I'm not trying to sales pitch you on something, and I think that every man needs personal development with other incredible men. And that's what Rise of Kings. I went to the very first event, January 2020. And there's tons of opportunity there to grow. And you do not have to do any of those things to bring your son to the Genesis program. Just bring your son to the Genesis program. But I'll just tell you, my life has drastically shifted, and it's been my mindset around. I mean, my marriage is locked in a way that it hasn't been. My awareness for my fathering, my finances, dude, I didn't even know what a net worth or like a net worth statement was. And I was negative the first time I filled it out. And now it's way positive. And I live, move my family to Hawaii, and I have 20 employees. My business is growing. There's so many tools and resources that have helped me really move into more of a kingdom mindset, which to me, it just boils down to two things. God is abundant, and he has given me the opportunity to be a good steward. And so that's for me what Ruck has done. I'm incredibly grateful for the community and the people and friends. Even as this call started, before we hit record, Mondo and I have probably hung out several times, but he was able to say, "Hey, Ned, I'm noticing this, experiencing this in you." And it was a moment for me to reflect and go, yeah, that's true. And I don't want people to feel that way around me. And I'm able to make a shift with that. So like even in the micro moments, we get to become the men we want to be. I hesitate to say better men. It's not about being better or good. Sometimes that can really derail us as Christians. It's about, I want to be a certain type of man, but I can only be that man if I have guys around me willing to point out my blind spots. So that's in a nutshell what Ruck has done for me. Mondo, how about for you?
Man, you teed up perfectly what I was going to say. When I came to the event, by God's grace, I've been in some really cool spaces, like being a former professional athlete, playing football in the NFL, and being a part of two different ministries that have worldwide impact, and traveling 30 countries and, just over a year. There's some really cool experiences that I've had and some really cool people that I've met. And when you look at the four pillars of faith, family, fitness, finance, I had never been in a space where there were people leveling up in all four. I've been around preachers who just
Hmm.
preach the paint clean off the wall. And then you're wondering if they're going to croak over and have a stroke, because when you look at their health, you can tell that there's no discipline there. Then I've been around guys who are crushing it. One of the guys on the team, when I was playing ball, showed me his check, and it was 2 weeks, and it was multiple millions of dollars, and that was the first
Dang.
time that I had seen a check like that in my early 20s, which was really cool, right? And he's like, yeah, whatever, and it's like $3 million check for like a 2 weeks worth of work. I'm like, dude, that is awesome. So it's like, but then it's like there's no integrity there. It doesn't care about his family, right? Then you got a guy who's crushing it,
Mm,
making 7, 8, 9 figures in business, killing it in the finance pillar. But he's like, you ask him, hey man, how'd you get there? Tell me. He's like, well, yeah, you gotta grind. You gotta work 24/7, 365. And it's like he's been married 13 times. So you
yeah.
can't get
Yeah.
that advice without it being laced with the results that they're gonna get as well. Got a dude who's yoked up, big as the ox, is strong. Man, how you get so cut? Six pack for life. He's like, yeah, bro, but the gym is his God. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Well, for
Yeah.
me, the most valuable thing that I've gotten coming to Rise Up Kings has been the associations. And I remember
Hmm.
coming through the event and God literally speaking to me and saying, man, we found your tribe. Like, these are your people. And
Hmm.
and it has been true ever since, for the last almost 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. So for me, that is critically important, because as a father, 11 children, speaker, communicator, author, like all these things, I want to surround myself with people who can force me to level up and grow.
Yeah.
People like you, like you, Ned, right? Like, that help grow me and challenge me, because it is true that the 5 people you spend the most time with will have an impact on your life, from the amount of money you make, the way you look, the way you dress, the way you speak. the things you do with your time, your finances, literally every aspect of your life, subconsciously and unconsciously, is directed and affected by those that you associate with.
100%. It's so good. I mean, even as you say that, it's like, who are you putting your kids around, right? And
Mhm.
and I just see these young kings who are coming to this mastermind every other week, and they're building friendships with each other. They're starting to see this opportunity of how you build associations, even if you're in different states, different cities, whatever. And we're cultivating that with a 13 and a 15 and a 17-year-old. Like, dude, that's incredible, right? Because one of the things that I think a lot of men who are listening to this, if you're 30, 35, 40, 45, you've never done this, you might feel intimidated or feel awkward to come to an event. You don't know anybody. But if you start doing that with your kid when he's 15, he's just like, oh, this is just what men do. Men are comfortable enough to walk into a room and bring whatever skills and whoever they are. And it's not a comparison. It's really about finding a tribe and finding a community that you can grow in. But I think the important thing that Mondo has brought up is it's not about this comparison of like, because there's some groups out there, it's like you're bringing your net worth statement or you're showing up and are you jacked? Are you, so I think one of the cool things is we're trying to be well rounded in all these four pillars, not just our business, not just uh, our fitness, which really can be the two defaults. But it's like, if I'm not married to Sarah in 50 years, like, what's the point? If my kids don't like me, or here's a big one with the fatherhood one. If my kids aren't prepared to take over my business or even be the kind of kids who could take over my business, then there's a
Mm,
real problem. And
mm,
that's what I'm talking about at the Arise conference next week is like, if you've crushed it, man, I'm meeting 65-year-olds right now. So there's the biggest wealth transfer ever. And you see all of these celebrities and people who are like, oh, I'm not giving the money to my kids. Here's the thing. They're giving it to somebody else's kids when they donate it to a charity. And I'm not saying don't give money to charity, but you're giving it to someone else's kids, trusting that they're going to steward your family wealth better than your own family.
mm.
That's a
Ooh,
problem, dude.
good, Ned. Yes.
It gives me chills, dude. If we
Or,
want to be the kingdom of God, we want to come back in 1,000 years and see that we've been good stewards with what God has entrusted to you in this season.
come on.
It means you really have to pay attention to what's happening with your kids. You have to raise them in a way that they are ready. Like you said, Mondo, and let's talk about this. You want your ceiling to be your son's starting point.
That's right.
But 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 are we talking about that? Are we thinking about? And that, my friends, I'll tell you that right now. If you step into the Genesis program with your son, those are the kind of men. That's the way that they're thinking, and that's the trajectory that your sons are going to be building upon. So don't be overwhelmed by this. This is opportunity. So any last thoughts on that? And then let's share what
Yes,
each of us are
yes.
doing
I'm
with
like,
our sons.
dude, what you
Yeah.
just said about people who are, I just got off a conversation with a guy who literally said he's running 3 different companies
Yep.
and his kids are in their late 20s. One of them's 30. And he literally was like, I'm spending all of it. I'll burn this place to the ground. They're not getting a dime, And I was thinking to myself, like,
Hmm.
I hear
Hmm.
you, and I've seen different things with like Shaquille O'Neal, where he's like, I'm not giving my kids money. I get where that's coming from the perspective of you don't want them to be entitled, you don't want them to
Yeah.
be, what do you call it when the kids just get the stuff just passed down? What is it
Yeah.
called?
Like nepotism and
Yeah, the
entitlement.
nepotism.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 entitlement, all that. But basically, what I'm looking at here is what you said, and I love that because according to the word, we're supposed to leave an inheritance to our children's children. So if that's going to our children's children, guess who it had to come through? Your children. And for you to leave an inheritance to your children and for them to steward it well enough to get it to your children's children, there's some training that gets involved in that.
Yeah.
There's some intentionality that gets involved in that. And one of the things that I love is that post Genesis, what we do as you're leading those calls is that you had all of us put together a plan on how we want to impact and train up our sons
Hmm.
before they leave the house.
Hmm.
So what's really cool about this is it forces us to plan ahead and it forces us to think through the monotony and the daily minutia of work, manage your company, exercise, eat. Studies show that we think about 90% of the same thoughts every single day.
Hmm.
And if you don't have a format or a structure to break you out of that rhythm so that you can start to plan ahead, and make sure that there's a roadmap for your children to follow so you could be a trailblazer and leave them a path so that the most powerful thing that you can do is let them see your back as you're running towards the goal and running towards the
Mm,
finish line of what God's called you to do. Then, dude, you're missing the point because it says train up your child in the way that they should go. When they're old, they will not depart from it. Despite the way your son or your daughter is acting right now, if you lead by example, there will come a time, trust and believe, where they'll circle back and say, Dad, thank you. You weren't
mhm,
perfect, but man, you were intentional. And I'm grateful
mhm,
for that. So, man, I'm
mhm,
fired up about this. One of the things that I'll share before you take it back, Ned, is that about 10 years ago, my wife really challenged me with a question after an amazing date night. She's like, babe, this was awesome. I'm thinking, babe, all we got left to do is home base. Let's go. Let's get to the house. I got work to do. Let's go. And then she's like, hey, before we get out of the car, I got a quick question for you. And I'm like, what's up? She's like, hey, why are we together? And I'm like,
Oh.
oh, snap. This ain't going to be a quick one. So I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, I love you." She's like, "Yeah, but is it just about the American dream and the couple kids?"
Mhm,
And I'm like, "No." She's like, "But why? Like, what's the purpose of why God brought us together? You believe God brought us together, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, dude, the more I tried to explain it, the deeper the ditch was that I dug with my own words as I'm
mm,
just building. I'm like, and then it ends in actual frustration. And now, what was this amazing level 10 date night
mm,
has turned into deep pain and agony as I could not articulate why I believe God brought my wife and I together. So, what it led to was me staying up for the next 3 or 4 hours praying and seeking God to find a
mm,
vision for my family. And
mhm,
that next morning, I started out with a blueprint that my wife and I spent the weekend working on. And we now have a clearly articulated vision for our family, which is to glorify God with an inspiring, purpose filled life. And in that umbrella vision statement for my entire family, each of our children have their own vision statements when they turn 13 years old. And
mm,
I have a specific vision statement that fits under that vision statement. And what that's doing is allowing them to see something bigger than themselves, to be a part of something bigger than themselves, to not think from a selfish perspective, but to think from a selfless perspective of
mm,
what does my life mean and why has God put me on this earth and what is it that He intended for me to do with my life. And if I'm able to get clarity on that and move forward in that with a clearly defined plan, it's a game changer. Why? It informs you of what to say no to when somebody at school offers your son weed and they're like, "Hey, yo, take a hit of this blunt," and then it's laced with fentanyl, your son can look
mm,
at that like, "Nah, bro, I'm good." Why? Because they have meaning and purpose within the family unit.
yeah,
Why? It came
yep,
from dad.
yep,
So that's one of the things that we're building is helping these young men get clarity and a vision for their life so that when those opportunities come, they can know who they are and whose they are. They can know what to
mm,
say no to, where to focus, how to spend their time. And like you said earlier, I was telling my son this just before this podcast. I said, son, all the work that I'm doing, when I work my guts out, I'm going hard, I'm giving all of myself, is so that I can trailblaze and you can have a path to follow. So my ceiling can become your floor.
mhm,
That's what it's all about.
mhm. Yeah, and to me, that's the gift of us only having 80 to 100 years, is it's enough time to do that, to do something great, build family, to do what God asked us to do. So let me just back up for a second. Guys, I think sometimes when you hear like me share, here's my family vision and my core values as a family and stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to start with that. If you listen to what Mondo said, it all kind of comes down to this base truth of in Genesis, what God asked us to do: be fruitful, multiply, rule, have dominion, right? It's you're my kids. The weight's not all on you. And so like everything Mondo shared, if I were to share our family vision and this stuff, it all comes from that. Be fruitful, multiply, don't be selfish, take care of people around you. But the one of the problems with America is that we are such a work culture that we turn our identity into our work versus turning our identity into being a family that thinks beyond the 100 years we have. Like I want to think beyond the 100 years so that then my kids can continue to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion and have rule, so that if Jesus comes back in 2000 years, I did my part in the 100 years that I had, preparing each generation to give families jobs, to take care of people, to not be selfish. So like that's what all of Genesis is based on, is like as men, we have found our identity and we realize that it has to go back to the beginning. We have to pass it from generation to generation. I'm starting to just word vomit, but thoughts from you, and
Dude,
then I want to talk about our sons
yeah,
for a
no,
minute.
man, I love exactly what you're saying, and then that in that scripture reference, if you're looking for that address, it's in Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 28. And when you study that out, that's where God has given us our vision for
Mhm.
this earth, why he's put us
Mhm.
here. And when we
Mhm.
walk in that, it's not to dominate other people, it's to dominate
No.
in the space that he created us for and the thing that he
Mhm.
called us to do. And as a father, you have that gift because God put it in you. And when you share that and train up your son in the way that he should go, not saying, hey, son, because I play football, you got to play football, but
Right.
being alert and aware enough to say, oh, God has gifted my son in business and entrepreneurship, or God has gifted my son in being able to play the violin, or being able to articulate himself and write poetry, like whatever the thing is, train him up in that, create space, create opportunities. And I love the challenge, Ned, that you just presented in regards to thinking outside of yourself in 100 years, but thinking from an eternal perspective. Like, dude, did you carry the baton when it was given to you and you were born and you're 80, 90, 100, 120 years on this earth? God's like, run your race, like the Apostle Paul said. Did you give it all of yourself? Did you run
Mm.
it in such a way that the next person getting the baton from you, your son, your children, can run their race and crush it and win? And I feel like
Mhm.
everything that we're talking about in regards to setting them up with a foundation of faith, setting them up to understand the value of relationship by the way that you love their mother.
Yes.
The best
Yes.
gift you can give your son is the way you love his mother.
Mhm.
And then the way you take care of your physical body so you're not a burden to other people. When you start slowing down and
Mm.
you become a weight to those that care about you and love you, and a distraction to them because they have to, you know, take on the burden of your care because you were negligent during the younger years and you didn't take time to work out and eat healthy, or financially they got to pick up the ball. Like, God forbid you leave this earth and there's no, not only are they grieving, but then they got to carry the financial burden as well and try to find a way to fund your funeral. Like, dude, it
Yeah.
is critically important to make sure these things are in place. Like, if you don't have a life insurance policy, if you're not taking care of your health, if you're not investing in a relationship with Christ, if you're not loving their mother, man, these are areas of growth, not shame. And I encourage you to start there. And then from there, we build on, like, okay, well, what's the vision of what God's called us to do? And how do we move forward in a way that's going to leave an impact for the kingdom of God?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, man, as you share, we put such an emphasis, and I'm all for finance and fitness, for them, for sure. But we put that as a priority versus, like, if I'm thinking about myself deathbed, the two things that I want to be able to tell God I did well is that I loved my wife for the sake of the kingdom, right? For my kids, my grandkids. I love my wife, and I prepared my son to then become the patriarch of the family. Like, that
Mhm.
I'm ready, he's ready. So those are two really critical things. So um let's jump into, okay, I'm going to just share what I'm doing with my son and you share, because I think it's really cool that you and I get to be a part of leading Genesis, because we're both in this phase of, like, my
Mhm.
son's 16, and I'll
Mine
tell
is.
you guys, yeah. So, okay, dude, about a year ago, I had this wild, just overwhelming feeling and realization that my son's going to move out. And it wasn't this, like, how he goes out into the world is a reflection of me, in the sense of, like, it was about my ego and we need to look like this perfect family. But it was like, am I preparing him to be ready for this? Am I helping him? And so at that point, I started writing out a roadmap of, like, okay, this is when he walks away, when he drives away, when I put him on an airplane for whatever it is that he decides to go start to work on, have I spoken life into him? And I think there's two extremes. You've got, I would say, like a Muslim community, which is very good at speaking vision into their family. The way Muslims take over a country is through families. It's like, you know who and what you're going to be. Like, my friend always says this, like, your heart surgeon's last name is Muhammad because his dad told him since he was 2 you're going to be a heart surgeon. So to me, that's a little maybe extreme. But then the typical American is like, do what makes you happy. I'm obsessed with your happiness, so be obsessed with your own happiness. So we send kids out in the world of, like, I don't know what you're going to do, but figure it out and it'll all work out. It's like, that's too far extreme too. So I had this overwhelming feeling. I'm homeschooling my son. I have a coach who's coaching me just to be able to bounce things off. Like, here's what I'm going through. Here's what I'm wrestling with. And I have the Fatherhood podcast. You know what I mean? Like, that's how much I care about this thing, is, like, I am putting a lot of intention behind it, and it's a lot of work, but I see that I'm responsible for this. Um, so anyways, that's where I'm at with my son, and it is a struggle, and it is good. right? And we talk about the tension, him and I. I'm like, yo, you're 16, you're kind of in a man's body, but some ways you want me to treat you like a kid, and other ways you want me to treat you like a man. And there's this tension, like you're ready to be on your own, but then you're also showing signs of like not really being ready. I mean, literally in the car after church on Sunday, he's like, Dad, can I just move out this summer? And part of me is like, he'll learn a lot by going out on his own. But then I'm like, I hear you. And also, and I pointed out like 3 or 4 things, not to derail him or diminish his passion, but to go, here's some areas where we still need some growth that I would love for you to overcome before you're out on your own. And he heard them and he's like, I don't know that he was like, yeah, Dad, you're right. But he had less to say after. um, Another just cool thing I want to share real quick is, guys, when you get into a group like this and you start to work on these things, like all of a sudden, me and Mondo were on a call, and literally we don't talk very often. And I started sharing that my son's going to start working for my company doing telemarketing. We're going to try this out. And like randomly, Mondo is like, my kids just made 100 sales calls. And I'm like, dude, this is so cool. Because what we could be doing is just talking about how we're maximizing our businesses or how we're maximizing our health or how whatever the thing is. But there's something really scary and exciting about the vulnerability around what we're doing with our kids.
hmm I love it.
So you,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is beautiful, man. I love how you're stepping into that pocket with your son, Ned, and navigating that space of uncomfortability with him as he's learning
Mm-hmm.
to become a man. And I think that's so important in regards to creating a space where our kids can feel safe. And that's
Mm,
essentially what you created when you got that revelation a year or two ago, and you're like, oh my God, my son's about to be out of the house. And you started being more intentional. You created a space where he could step into being a man under the covering of your household.
mm-hmm.
And how many times do we miss those opportunities where they've been treated like a little boy or a kid, and then 18, they just get kicked out into the world and just get sent off to college, or you got to go get a job and get out of here and get your own apartment. But they haven't really had the time to develop the muscle, the skill. So you think about anything we do in life, like you come into this world not knowing how to do anything. Literally, you can't walk, you can't stand on your own 2 feet, you can't go to a bathroom, and then you learn to go to the bathroom. You learn to walk, you learn to run, you learn to ride a bike when you first scraped up your knee. Then you're like, look, mom, no hands, right? Like you learn to drive a car that can turn into a speeding bullet and
Mm-hmm.
navigate to the point where at first you're super nervous behind the wheel with 10 and 2 on the wheel. And then you're driving home, you're on your Bluetooth talking, you're eating, you're spitting out sunflower seeds. And next, you know, you're like, dang, I didn't even realize I got home. Like, I don't even remember the route because it's so automatic. So what would it look
Mm-hmm.
like if we created a ramp like that with our sons where at the age of 13 years old, they get to learn what it means to be a man. And now they've technically got 5 years to fail safely. They have 5 years to scrape their
Mm-hmm.
knees up. They have 5 years to actually live as a young man until they're actually put out into the world. And now they have the muscle memory, the skill set, the strength, the ability to persevere and be successful and hit the ground running as opposed to starting
Yeah.
from scratch, no template. So for us, when you ask, what have you done? Since that vision statement was created, God bless you. We, our oldest at that time when that happened was 8 years old. So my wife and I had 5 years to prepare a trajectory, a roadmap for our kids. So a quick backstory on what led to this, and then I'll tell you exactly what we do. I went to Bible school at Rhema Bible College in Oklahoma. I met a young man there, and he and I were having a conversation. He was extremely articulate, very thoughtful, had extremely high emotional intelligence, knew the word inside and out, was very mature. And as I was talking to him, the way he spoke was as if he was 30, 35, 40 years old. The level of
Mm,
insight and maturity that he had and success. And then but there was this dichotomy because I'm looking at him and I'm having this conversation with what feels like a 35 or 40-year-old man, but his face looked like a teenager. I mean, he had no facial hair. I mean, baby face. And I'm like, this is weird. So I was like, bro, how old are you? He was like, oh, I just turned 18 years old. And I said, you have got to be kidding me. What did your parents do? He starts laughing.
mhm,
He's like, I'm Jewish. And I was like, tell me the
mhm,
significance. He's like, we have what's called a bar mitzvah at the age of 13 years old and we get treated like a man. So for the last 5 years, he was like, I've been living on my own. I've been doing my own thing. And I've learned this, and this. And it was that moment when I said, I want that for each of our kids. I want that.
Hmm.
So I started studying the Jewish culture, started studying what would take place with the bar mitzvah, and put together my own version of this, which essentially is a rite of passage for a 13-year-old in American culture to step into young adulthood. And for every single one of our kids, we take them away for an entire week. As you know, we have 11. And from our oldest, we put together an entire plan. We have a playbook, and we literally walked them through a very intentional process through deep connectivity relationally. We talk on faith, we talk on family, we talk on fitness, we talk on finance, we talk about sex, marriage. Like, we have all the hard conversations that we want them to hear from us directly. And then we equip them with the tools to execute that. And they have a 5-year window while they're still in the house. And we're not kicking them out at 18, but just in case that they do want to go ahead and step out on their own at 18, they're prepared. But that's a 5-year window where they get to practice and fail safely and develop those skills and ability of what it looks like to be a young adult. So we've been
Hmm.
doing that with my son Mondo for the last 3 years now. He graduated from high school at 14, and he is working on it. He got his bachelor's degree at 15 years old, and he's currently working on his master's degree right now, and he has a business. So going back to what you were saying earlier, they're starting to do some cold calls, and it was really cool because I've been training him up on how to do sales and how to develop a script, and he and one of his sisters are in that process right now, stepping into that from the financial category. But that for us has been very successful, and it's been a way to invest in our children and give them a roadmap so that they can step into this not for the first time when they leave the house, but for an entire 5 years while they're still in the home.
Hmm. Man, I mean, it's incredible, incredible. And guys, if you're feeling overwhelmed, like, oh wow, that's like next level. Be on your path with your son and hear this as a moment that God's not asking you to overnight solve this, but can you start to get to work on preparing your son for manhood so that then when he's a dad, he already has a roadmap already started. Like, this is already what we do when our sons turn 13. That's what it means for the Davis family, the Shout family, whatever your name is. That you're starting to build this out. So don't look at this as an overwhelm of, oh my gosh, I have to have all this figured out right now, but start this so that then the way you may be feeling right now, your son or your grandson or your great great grandson doesn't feel that way. That when their son turns 10, they're already starting to go like, hey man, when you turn 13, we're doing X, because that's what the Shout family does. And I'll tell you, even as when I was sharing, maybe you felt overwhelmed. When Mondo was sharing, I was like having feelings of like, well, frick, my kid hasn't graduated high school yet, right? So I was feeling those feelings of inadequacy or I didn't do enough. So I got to imagine that's the enemy's lie for all of us
Mhm.
to just make us think it's too late, it's too much. I'm scared. I'm just going to put my head down and go to work and make sure the trash is out. Don't miss your opportunity. Don't miss your opportunity. Look at this as an opportunity to be like, these are the types of men that I want to be rubbing shoulders with. And I want my sons rubbing shoulders with their sons. Now,
Mhm.
that's this shift we want to make. Um, so Mondo, just
Can I
I
plug in
love it.
something right there, Ned? Yes. So
Please, yeah.
I know how you feel right now. Listening to me a few moments ago, you're probably, dang, dude, like, oh my gosh, like my son's 17 years old. There's no way I can do. Here's the deal. When I learned about this about 10, 12 years ago, yeah, 12 years now ish, something like that. Man, I felt overwhelmed. I mean,
Hmm.
I didn't know. I was like, how am I gonna? And then next thing you know, it was like, you know what? Let's just start with a vision statement. Like, what are we about as a family? Like, can we
Hmm.
articulate that in one sentence or less? And then let me just be present with my kids. Let me start to teach them in the things that I do know and I'm very competent in. And let me also share from a vulnerable place to the areas where I'm still growing. And I think that's something that can be hard as well as a father, is to be vulnerable and share areas of growth and areas of inadequacy that we see that God is highlighting to us so that our kids are aware, like, oh my, I can connect with my dad on a deeper level. I was just talking to my girls the other night and I was telling them, like, man, how would you rate our relationship right now? Because I feel like I have not been as present with you recently as I would like to be. And I want to check in with y'all to see how you're doing. And all my girls agree with me. And
Hmm.
they were like, "Yeah, dad, it seems like you've had some different things on your mind and you haven't been fully present and da da da." So I was able to connect with them. My daughter writes me this beautiful letter and is like, Dad, thank you so much for your vulnerability. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. Like, I love seeing you pursuing growth and I feel so connected to you. And it was just beautiful.
Mm,
And it ministered to her in a way where she opened up at a deeper level too. So I feel like when we as men can be vulnerable with our sons and say, hey, look, you know what? Your granddad wasn't around to teach me this stuff. And son, I love you. I'm going to give everything I have to you and we're going to grow together. Maybe y'all take a course together on investing. Maybe you both go learn how to play golf together. You can do things with your son, even though you're
mhm,
his father, where you both learn the skill at the same time and it deepens
mhm,
your bond and helps you grow and him grow at the same time. So I just feel like there's, like you said, Ned, there's nothing to be overwhelmed about. There's never any shame. Start where you
mhm.
are today. And at the end of the day, if you don't do anything else, you don't take anything away from this podcast, just be present.
Yeah,
What your son needs more than anything else is you, period.
100%. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yes, your son needs you desperately, so be present with him. So now I'd like to take a few minutes and talk about like what is the Genesis program. So like as you hear Mondo and I, it's like we could probably talk for 4 hours and
Easy.
start really digging into this. And my suggestion to you guys is just set aside some money, go take your son to a 2-day event and start a new conversation in your family. This is a great way to be like with other like-minded dads who want to care and may not feel fully know how and to start a new conversation with your son. So Mondo, if somebody's like, okay, right now I'm interested. First, I would go to riseupkings.com/FFN for Fatherhood Field Notes, and that'll take you to the page. And there's a video on there that shows it. I mean, I watched it right before we did this, and it's like I'm almost crying. You know, there's statistics. You're seeing the kids what they're doing at this event. It's truly incredible. So if a dad is going to sign up, they're going to fly into Texas. They're going to stay at a hotel. They're going to then what? Like, what is this 2 days? Obviously, you can't give it all away, but what
Sure.
to expect?
100%. This is an opportunity, first and foremost, for us not to replace you as a dad. We are not equipped to do that. That is not our aim. That's not our intention. Our aim and our intention is to support you as a dad. You are the primary source of your son's growth and development. And God placed you in his life because you are specifically wired and equipped to give your son everything he needs to go out into this world and be a force and crush it for
Mhm.
the kingdom of God. So our aim is to support you as a father, okay, or a father figure, right? Because some of the sons may
Mm,
not have their actual dad. So a father figure or the actual biological father, we are going to support you in creating a rite of passage to come alongside you in the growth and development of your son, going from being a boy to becoming a man. And you may be thinking, well, how, coach? Here's how. We equip him with the tools in regards to what it looks like to become a man of God and walk closely with the Lord in relationship as the faith becomes his foundation for his life. Number two, we talk to him about and train him in regards to what it looks like to be a man that is worthy of receiving a wife at some point in the
mm,
future and what it looks like to be a good man in preparation for your queen as you become the king that God has called you to be. Number three, we train you in regards to how to take care of your physical body and make sure that your body is equipped to be healthy and to be a protector if that calls and you have to step into that role. And then lastly, how to step into finance and create opportunities where your son is equipped to be a great steward of the resources God's going to bring into his hand. And with all that being said, if you've ever found yourself questioning the relationships or the friendships from your son's select team in football or baseball or basketball or track or whatever, and you're like, man, I would love to really get my son around some higher quality kids that are really intentional about their life. And you're looking for those deeper, more impactful relationships. I would say that that is an incredible value because you're not only going to be around other fathers who are intentional just like you are, but you're going to put your son around good influences that will help him step into that manhood. My son and his battle buddy from the event talk, they talk very frequently. And the cool thing is this, if it's true that you are the sum average of the five people you spend the most time with, then think about this. My son and his buddy's about to graduate early from high school, his battle buddy that he had in the event, and he just started investing. He's
mhm.
16 years old. He just became an investor and got the account set up and is going full on as a full-time investor. So what I'm saying is like in high school, and I'm not knocking high school, but what I'm saying is in the high school that you're in, you may be thinking, well, man, my kids don't have those kind of relationships. Only thing they're talking about what they're going to do for the party on Friday. So if you want to immerse yourself in an environment that is rooted in faith biblically and fully equipping boys to become young men, this is the place to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, guys, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of these programs right now. But Rise of Kings has a track record of thousands of men going through their programs. And now my hope and desire is that thousands of young men go through the Genesis, and it starts to even blow out what's going on with adults, because our young men need it. Such a small investment to set your kid up for this new conversation that you could have with them. So please, if go check it out, riseupkings.com/FFN. If you've got questions, hit me up, ned@rebellandcreate.com. I care so much about this. And here's a major reason I care. I got 4 daughters who are going to be looking for good men to marry in the next 5 to 10 years. So I really freaking care if you are getting your son ready to be able to build a family with one of my daughters. Like, that's how much we should care about this stuff.
Same.
Like,
I got seven girls, and one of them's already married. So I got 6 more, and that's my freaking heart, man. So
yeah,
if we can do our part
yeah,
to equip fathers to pour into their sons and prepare
yes.
those boys to become young men that are gonna go and crush it and treat that part of our hearts, our daughters, with, the utmost care and love, man, what a great life, what a great investment, and what a great opportunity.
Yeah, dude. It's like, if we really sat down and go like, how can we make impact over the next 100 years? Well, if we do start doing stuff like this, investing in our sons like this and our daughters, it's like, oh, let's just like decrease the divorce rate. Let's decrease the suicide rates. Let's decrease all this stuff. And it's it's hard work, but it's really just intentional good work that we all want to be a part of.
Mhm.
And so this stuff matters. All right, before we let these guys go, what's one tool that they could take into their relationship with their son right now? So I'll give you a minute to think while I share mine. And to give you an example, something that I've learned recently that doesn't work well with my son is if I surprise him. So what I'm working on is, I'll give you an example. He missed the mark on something last week, and so I said, okay, well, now today this and this is happening. But I had never told him that if he missed the mark, this and this would be happening, right? That this consequence would come. And I saw his face, and and I'm like, "You're surprised by this?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I'm surprised by this. I this is what my plan was for today, and now you're changing it because I missed something last week. Yes, I missed it, but I didn't know that if I had, there would be a surprise consequence." So I said, "Okay, I don't want you to live in surprise. I want you to trust me and not think that I'm just going to step into your world at any point and kind of like derail what's going on. So can we agree that if this week you miss this and this, that then this is going to be the result or the consequence per se if it does?" And he's like, "Yes, I can agree to that." And so that's something that I'm working on that I wasn't aware of, that I was regularly surprising my kids and frustrating them.
Mhm.
And something that my coach had shared with me in this regard is, I when a situation happens, I don't want my kid to externalize it based on my consequence, meaning they think my dad's a hard ass, my dad's a jerk, I'm safer and freer away from him. I want the circumstance to be where he internalizes it so that he can grow, right? So if he agrees to the consequence and I don't surprise him with it, then it was he created this result, not me creating this result. So that's a
Beautiful.
tool you could use. How about you, Mondo?
So my tool is the relationship rater.
Mm,
Relationship rater is a tool,
okay.
really powerful tool. And this tool was originated for me in marriage. But I said, man, like I not only want to have a level 10 marriage at all times with my wife, where she would rate our marriage a 10 out of 10, but I want to have that same relationship with my kids.
Mm,
And so I utilize that in my relationship with my sons and my daughters. And the way it works is you would simply ask this question. And now, before I go into it, before I tell you what the question is, it's really important to execute this the way I'm telling you, because I've learned through trial and error that if you try to justify or explain, then you create a space that's no longer safe, and
mm.
you will not get accurate feedback and data on how you can show up better for your family. So it's really important to execute it in these phases. I'm going to explain it to you, then I'll walk you back through the phases. and make sure that you fully understand how to use this tool. And this is something you could do today. Super simple. So number one thing is ask your son. We're talking about sons on this podcast, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
reference my son. Hey, son, how would you rate our relationship on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being horrible, 10 being absolutely amazing. We're crushing. And he's going to take a moment and think, and he's going to give you a rating. Most likely, that rating is not going to be what you think it should be. You're going to think you're crushing it. You're going to think, oh, I'm definitely a 9. And your son's going to say, you're a 6. Now, what happens after your son gives you the number is critically important. And that is that you receive that with a smile, something like this. Not a fake cheesy smile, like, oh,
Yeah.
ha, ha, ah, or not a angry face, but more like a thank you. And those are the 2 words that come out of your mouth. Thank you. So after that thank you, then the next question is, what can I do to make that a 10? And then he's going to proceed to tell you. And you listen until he's done. And then when he's done, you say thank you and get to work. Period. No explanation. No, well, yeah, I'm showing up as a 6 because, oh, this season at work and, oh, your mom. No. If you listen, you can do whatever you want. You're a grown man. But I'm telling you, if you want this thing to work, I'm going to go through it again real quick. How would you rate our relationship on a scale of 1 to 10? 5. Thank you. What can I do to make that a 10? X, Y,
Mm-hmm.
Z, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. And get to work. No explanation, no repeat, da da da. Or, hey, do you know why? Mm-mm. And then wait a quarter, wait 6 months, wait a year, and then come back and ask again. And what you'll notice is that every time you do it, if you're staying true to what they gave you as feedback, you're going to see a dramatical increase in your relationship with that child. Number 2, there's going to be a deeper connectivity on a heart to heart level. And number 3, you're demonstrating vulnerability, which subsequently impacts the relationship in a positive manner and makes them feel closer to you because they feel seen, heard, and valued.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one way to feel safe in a relationship. So
Mm.
that's my tool, extremely powerful, and keeps me deeply connected with my family, despite the seasons, the highs and lows. And it also helps me to identify my blind spots and areas where I can continue to grow.
Mondo, love it. Thank you. My friend, thank you for this time. Thank you for what you're doing with the Genesis program. Dads, don't wait. Go check it out. Go register. Do something to start investing in that relationship between you and your son. This is a great way to do it. Please, if you've got questions, let me know. I want to support you guys because this is critical. This is one of our most critical opportunities and responsibilities. So
Mhm.
much love, Mondo. Look forward to the next time. Get to see you in person next week. I'll see you in person.
Look forward to it, Ned. Thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here, and I love the work you're doing. And guys, please share this podcast with others. We need
Yes.
Ned Shouts content to reach more men in regards to the value of being a great father. It is so important, the work you're doing, Ned. I love it. Thank you so much, brother. Honored to be here, and I look forward to seeing you at a Rise Summit next week.
All right. Peace.
God bless.
All right, what an incredible conversation. I mean, we showed up to talk about this program that we're both coaching in, as well as, share with you, the listener, an opportunity. And please go check this out, riseupkings.com/FFN for Fatherhood Field Notes. Go check out the video on the Genesis program. It's so incredible. Mondo's the coach at the event. I'm the coach and the mastermind on the back end. And it's incredible. What's fun is even in this moment, right, of Mondoe and I talking, we're put this podcast together, this episode, to share something new and useful to you. But literally, both of us walked away learning something. And I started in my family legacy doc adding, what do we believe for mom's role, dad's role, Sabbath, money, sex. So I started taking some of the things. I mean, even in the last, so I interviewed him yesterday and talked about it, and now I'm doing the intro, outro. And in the last 24 hours, I've already started to implement this and kind of bring it up to my wife. And so I'm learning alongside you guys. That's why this is so incredible. Like, we need each other. As Mondoe and I are talking, I'm learning as we're sharing. All right, my friends, if you have not written a review on this yet, please do so now. It helps spread the word that fatherhood matters. And the best thing you could do is shoot a text to a friend and say, hey, check out this podcast. I know your son's 13 or your son's 12 or your son's 15. Have you been thinking about a rite of passage for him? this program looks awesome. I think you should check it out. Or this podcast is awesome. I think you should check it out. Us dads need to encourage each other in that way. All right. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Do not be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, your spouse, and your community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.